Hello and welcome back to the Bears and Lions podcast. I'm Kyle Vaught. Although I went to school for sports broadcasting and digital media, I had to take a bunch of other classes about media and things like that. And some of my favorite classes ended up being about movies and TV. In fact, one of my favorite classes of all time, we spent the entire semester studying reality TV. And let me tell you, it was fun. And I'm not a huge reality TV guy, but I am a food competition guy or a competition guy in general. Used to love watching American Idol or any of those, The Voice, America's Got Talent. Those are all fun, but I fell in love with competition shows. So I used to watch MasterChef and then Chopped on Food Network. And I still love watching shows like Beat Bobby Flay or Next Level Chef. You get pockets of storytelling and character development that's just very unique, and I really enjoy it. But one particular competition show snuck into my life a couple years ago, and it kind of took over for about 4 months or so. And it's called Forged in Fire. It's this show on History Channel where you had a group of competitors that would come together, and they would battle each other out with these specific tasks of forging weapon, right? It would be like a sword or a Bowie knife or a chef's knife or something specific where they would say you have to make it X long, right? It needs to be 3 feet long, or it needs to be 12 inches long, or it needs to be a certain durability to withstand, X, Y, or Z. And I fell in love with watching the process, and I did not know the amount of steps it took to create something like this, like a chef's knife. And if you're watching this on YouTube, you can see I'm holding up my chef's knife, which actually has a really cool pattern in it. And that comes from folding steel over on top of each other over and over and over and over again, and then heating it over and over and over again. And I just loved that. And I learned so much about it, and I just got lost in it. And I learned all about the process. And when they would start, they would have these pieces of steel that they would weld together, and then they would just throw it in the forge and it would get red hot. And I'm talking like crazy hot. And then they would bring it out, and through machines and through hammers, they would pound it out until it was like this just block. But they also had this other thing that they did where they would quench it, which means they would heat it up to where it's red hot. And then they would quench it where they would dip it into this water oil solution. And oftentimes there would be like compressed air that would also go into it. And what it would do is it would rapidly cool the metal to make it more durable, and it would solidify all together as it would be a single block. Instead of being those layers of steel, it would be a single block. And they would do that over and over and over again throughout the process. And then eventually they would have like a block of steel, and they would temper it at that point, which means they would heat it again at a slower temperature or a lower temperature, but they would heat it again lower and over a longer period of time, which would make it durable. It'd make the metal where, okay, now it can withstand. And in that time frame, that they would also refine some of it. So any of the impurities or any of the oil that got burned into the metal would come out of it, because they would heat it and then hammer it over and over and over again. And eventually they would grind it down, and they would polish it up, and they would form it, and eventually they would make the handle, and it would look awesome. Now, why am I talking about this? It's because I want to talk to you about being forged in fire. I think a lot of us, and this is myself included, we want to do great things. We want to be a part of excellent things in life. We want to do things that are worthwhile. We want to be known as good men and good women. We want to be good workers. We want to be good husbands or boyfriends or girlfriends or wives. We want to be good children and good parents eventually one day. We want all these things, but there is a process, and it's not as simple as you would think. Much like learning how a knife is created, and I'm holding up the chef's knife for those of you who are listening on Spotify. A lot like this knife was not created just simply by putting metal in the fire and then pulling it out, and it was formed. There was a lot that went into making this chef's knife the way that it is, but it's durable, and I absolutely adore this chef's knife. I use it all the time, and I keep it sharp, and it's beautiful. It's one of my favorite things that I own. But sometimes we want an end result without understanding the process that it takes, or the entire process that it takes to reach that end result. And so we say things like, oh, you know what? I want to be a man or a woman of integrity. It's like, okay, great. And we say things like, I want to be a high value man, or I consider myself a high value woman. But are we really willing to do the work that it takes? All the steps that we actually don't understand that it takes. Are we willing to go through the hardships and the processes that put us in position to show that our integrity is there? Do we really want to be in that situation where we have to have an integrity in the moment, where our boss or our coworkers say, come on, it's all right, just go ahead and submit it. Even though we don't have all the paperwork, go ahead and submit it. No, like I have integrity, so I'm not going to do that. Thankfully, I don't work in a job that would ever ask me to do that. And my manager would never ask me to do that. But there are places that would ask you to, hey, just go ahead and do it. Like nobody's going to know. Well, integrity says yes. Are you really willing to be put in that position? Or are we willing to do the work that it takes, right? When nobody else is watching, when the lights are all off and we are just by ourselves, are we willing to put the work in and do it because that work is what makes us high value, or quote unquote high value according to society? And I don't know if we are. I know that there are times when I absolutely am. I'm all about it. I go gung ho, David Goggins style, who's going to carry the boats, and I'm all about it. And then there are some days when I wake up and I'm like, not really about it. And I'm not as consistent as I want to be. And I'm not as strong or as hopeful or as positive as I want to be. There are days when I wake up and I just simply say, I'm not feeling it. What about you? Because my guess is yes. My guess is I'm not alone in this. My guess is that you felt it too. And those are the days where I feel like the quenching is, I was really hot one day and then I'm rapidly cooled. And I'm not as pliable. And I'm not as moldable. And it's a little bit harder to grind the tough edges where I need to be worn down a little bit or polished up again, because I've gotten some scratches or some marks on the blades of my life where I'm not as effective because I have not been heated properly. I found it so interesting in the Forged in Fire, where I learned about the quenching process, where if the metal is not hot enough when it's put into the quenching liquid, it actually becomes brittle and can crack or warp. So there's a timing of these beautiful artists where they will have the red hot metal in the forge, cranked up the heat, and they'll look at it and they'll understand it's not ready yet. And even though it might be molten, and they'll pull it out and it'll be just vibrantly red, just molten hot steel, so incredibly hot. And they'll look at it and they'll say no, and they'll put it back in. It's like, to all of our eyes, we would say, yeah, I think it's ready. Like, look, it's glowing from end to end. But they understand the process of, oh, no, the entire thing needs to be an even heat. All of it has to be the same heat, because when I put it into the quenching liquid, if it's not even, pockets will crack or it'll become brittle. And so even though eventually it might look beautiful on the outside, it's unusable, because the moment you put pressure on it, it cracks or bends or breaks. I think some of us were quenched. We were quenched prior to being at the proper heat. I myself have gone through moments in life where I have tapped out. What about you? Where I've said, it's too hot, I'm too tired, it's too hard, I quit. I hate quitting. And there's a few things in my life that I've quit. And I remember the moment where I said, I'm done. And it was this moment where I feel like I quenched myself too soon. Where the refiner's fire, that forge fire that was heating me up to a point, or I could have learned something a little bit sooner, and it might have kept me from saying something, hurting somebody, or doing something foolish that ended up just sending me into a downward spiral of depression for weeks at a time. And there's been so many moments where I've quit. And there's been so many moments where the fire is so hot and it's so unbearable, but I'm unevenly heated. And so I say, no, we're good. We're going to go ahead and quench it now. We're going to quit this, or we're going to stop this, or I'm going to back away from this friend because they're annoying me. And I can't handle their BS anymore. I can't handle their drama anymore. So I'm just going to distance myself instead of standing in the fire a little bit longer and becoming a little bit tougher. Learning that integrity takes moments where you actually have to prove your integrity. Those are moments in life that I look back on. And I'm wondering how many of us, because I was thinking about this the other day, how many times in my life where I've said, I don't want to finish the process, where I have been heated. Maybe I said yes to being quenched at the right time, right? The flame, and this might be you, where the flame was so hot that you were evenly heated, and then you were quenched, and you were good. Everything was great. You weren't warped. You were fine. However, you were never tempered. You were never heated again to temper that metal and temper your strength. So you were never actually put back into the fire. You just assumed that once you're quenched, you're good to go. But the process is actually, nope, you got to get heated again. And so we would avoid people that annoyed us, or we would avoid jobs that put pressure on us or stressed us out. We would avoid the things and the choices in life that would put us under a certain level of pressure, because we'd say, no, I don't want to deal with that again. But that's the process that it takes in order for you to become stronger and more durable, right? If you're not tempered, then you're not ready for battle. A sword can be quenched multiple times, but the tempering is actually what strengthens it as a whole and makes it durable enough so that when you swing it at another sword, or when you swing it at armor, your sword doesn't just shatter or bend. When it's tempered, it becomes more durable. I found it interesting because as I was going through some of these thoughts for this episode, a couple verses stuck out to me, and one is Malachi 3:3, which says, he will sit as a refiner and purifier of silver. He will purify the Levites, they're talking about the Israelites, and refine them like gold and silver. And the process of refining is where it's heated, and then the impurities they come up to the surface, and then they'll hit it on an anvil, and those impurities will crack off. They'll just break free, and then they'll heat it again, and they'll refine it over and over until it's pure, or as pure as they can, because all those impurities are gone. And we need to be refined. All of us are going to experience the fire, no matter how much we don't want to experience the fire, no matter how much we don't want to experience that pressure. We are all forged in the choices that we've made throughout life. We're all forged in the experiences of our lives, and we become what experiences and what takeaways we've gathered. So whether you tell yourself, yeah, I'm good, I'm fine, I'm great, if you're not, and you go into that first battle and you've considered and you've said, you know what, I'm good, I'm fine, I'm great, but really you're not, that first battle, you're going to shatter like a sword that hasn't been quenched correctly or tempered correctly. And then you are left there broken and wondering, why did this happen to me? See, I talk about it all the time on the podcast about how I believe that our greatest future lies within the correct view of our past. And I emphasize the correct view of our past because I myself lie to myself about the past all the time. This didn't work out. It'll never work out. Last time I asked a girl out, she said no. It felt terrible. I don't want to ask another girl out because she's going to say no. What are the chances that she says yes? Well, it hasn't really worked out lately. There's so many things that you can like lie to yourself. And I'll tell myself lies of, hey, remember that relationship that didn't work out? None of your relationships will work out. And that's a lie. I know it's a lie. I'm not the same person I was when that relationship didn't work out. I've been quenched, tempered, and heated and formed by an incredible God of the universe that has taken me through these incredible journeys and has heated me evenly. Even after quenching me, he's tempered me to make sure that I'm durable, and I'm a lot different than I ever was then. But if I remember only the negatives, and if I only look at my past and say, oh yeah, all these things that, remember when you got fired from that job, and remember when you made those stupid, foolish decisions, like it's easy to look and attach yourself to all the negative. But I believe that we have to accurately look at our past, which gives us confidence to step into the present. Because when I accurately look at it, I say, okay, so yeah, I made some mistakes. But in those mistakes, I actually learned, and we started over, and we did it the right way here, and then I made another mistake. But I learned a new process where, hey, you know what? I need to avoid this, or I need to stand firm on this, or I need to leave it in the fire a little bit longer. And I learned all these processes, just like the artists that were on the show Forged in Fire. They learn all these processes, and then they take care of what they're doing, and they end up with an end result of this beautiful Damascus blade, or this beautiful sword, or a beautiful Bowie knife. Like, it's just incredible. But that process is the same in life, where I want to make sure that I am looking at the past correctly, that yes, there were negatives, but yes, there were positives. I learned from those things, and even in the process of learning from some of those mistakes, I learned new mistakes, and I learned new things, and I learned how to react to mistakes that were made. So instead of wallowing in the mistake longer, I've developed a lot more of the grace and the mercy that I should give myself to say, I did not handle that well, but that's okay. And that gives me confidence in my present, where I'm not walking through life, walking on eggshells, thinking any moment I'm going to absolutely fail. I failed in the past. No, instead I'm going to walk confidently because I know that I can do this. There are tons of things in my past that prove that I can do this. There's a resume in your past right now of hard things that you have accomplished that should be brought to your mind. And when you are walking in your present and something hard comes against you, or when the fire is too hot, or when the quenching isn't going the way that you want it to, and when you're not tempered as much as you thought, or when your sword in the battle breaks in the moment, there are things in your past that you need to be able to bring to mind and say, oh, that's fine. This didn't work, but that doesn't mean it's not all going to work, because X, Y, and Z worked in the past, and I know that I can do this. It's time to get back on the horse. It's time to try again. It's time to get back in the fire. It's time to try it over and over, and you're going to learn every single time. And the more you build that resilience, just like heating and quenching the steel, you become stronger and stronger and more durable and more beautiful. I'm going to show you the knife again for those watching on YouTube, because honestly, it's a beautiful knife. This is literally one of my favorite things that I own. And it's beautiful with the patterns of the metal that's just folded and folded and folded together again until it's this beautiful piece of steel. And let me tell you, when I sharpen it, this knife, it's so diligent to do exactly what it needs to do, and it cuts through like butter. And that's what I want our lives to be. I want us to be strong and strengthened and willing to stand in the fire and willing to stand in the heat and willing to take the blows of the hammer to refine us and to fix the warps and the little scratches and the little impurities that have snuck up to the top and to the surface, and the things in our past that we continuously bring up and say, no, but I messed up here. No, you messed up there, but that impurity is gone. You know why? Because you were heated and hammered. One of the other verses that I absolutely have just been so encouraged by lately is 2 Corinthians 4, 8 through 12. And this is Paul speaking to the church in Corinth. And he's talking about the hardships that they're facing. And the church of Corinth is kind of like, should we just give up? Should we just quit? The fire's too hot. It's too hard. And Paul's reminding them and encouraging them that there's a reason we battle this way. And there's a reason why it feels like death sometimes. It feels so hard sometimes. But Paul encourages them and says, we are hard pressed on every side, but not crushed. Perplexed, but not in despair. Persecuted, but not abandoned. Struck down, but not destroyed. We carry around in our body the death of Jesus, so that the life of Jesus may be revealed in our body. For we who are alive are always being given over to death for Jesus' sake, so that his life may also be revealed in our mortal body. So then death is at work in us, but life is at work in you. And Paul is reminding the church in Corinth that we will go through whatever it takes. And although it'll feel like death at the moment, and although it hurts, this will create a stronger church. This will create a stronger life. And the aspect of my life that I have I felt the Spirit just kind of moving, that there's this shift that's happening. Or for years, and I would say even decades, I've been in this refiner's fire wondering, when's the heat going to stop? And I've realized it's never going to stop. And that's what makes it so good, is I'm always going to be strengthened even more. There's always going to be something that will make me stronger than before. There is always something that I can take from the lessons of life. There's always something that I can learn. It's one of the reasons why I do this podcast, is because it's as much for me as it's for any of you who listen. And I'm so grateful for you who listen. Like, I really am, because these conversations are internal conversations that I have throughout the week. And sometimes I wonder, am I crazy? But then I meet people who listen to the podcast and they're like, hey, it was really encouraging. I really like what you said here. And I'm like, wait, hold on. I said that? Like, I can't tell you. I go through podcasts. Like, I went back and re-listened to a podcast I did months ago, and I was blown away, where I was like, I needed to hear that today. And it's just so encouraging to me, because I want us to be forged in fire. I want us to be people who are strong, durable, beautiful, elegant, ready to go, and absolutely battle ready. I want us to be the tools that people want to use, like a knife that just absolutely slices through butter and bread and chicken and anything else you can really ask. I absolutely love this knife, and yes, I'm bragging about it, but I want us to be the people who other people want to be around. Other people want to say, no, ask him, ask her. I really appreciate your opinion. Do you mind just sharing what you think about this? We should be the people that other people want to go to, not in a prideful or an arrogant way. I don't want people coming to me and being like, Kyle, you know everything. I know nothing when it comes to that, but I do know some things, and I believe that they were gifts to me and shared, or they're gifts to me to share with others. And so that's why I do this podcast. So the last thing I just want to encourage you with, and the last thing that I'll say, is if there's something in your life right now where you feel like the fire is too hot, I want you to see, am I ready to be quenched? Because chances are you actually might be. You might be in the fire so much, and that's your comfort zone. And so you just stay in the fire and you don't know the actual next steps. And you need somebody to come along and say, okay, no. From there, we need to rapidly cool you. We need to get you here. Like, you're doing all the right things. You're grinding it out. You're working hard. You're trying to be a blessing to others. You're trying to be a good person. You're trying to be kind. You're trying to be loving. You're trying to be, right, the spiritual disciplines, the fruits of the Spirit. You're trying to live those out and live out a Christ-like life. And it's just not working. Or maybe you're at this point where you're just broken and you're tired and you're exhausted because you're overheated. Or maybe you were just ready. Somebody needs to come along and say, okay, let's get out of the fire. Let's quench you because you're going to be so much stronger. And now we need to start, fine tuning. We're going to grind the blade down, and then we're going to polish you up. And then we're going to temper you. And we're going to grind and polish you again. And we're going to heat you up at a slower rate, but you're going to be able to withstand it a lot better because you've been in the fire long enough. The other thing I want to challenge you on is if you're in the situation where you were in the fire, you were tempered, you were strengthened, but now you've been out of the fire for a while and you've been used over and over and over again. You've been a useful and a viable knife, and you've done the work that you were supposed to do, but you've picked up some jagged edges and you've picked up some chips and you've got some scratches. It may be time that you need to either revisit the fire or go through a sharpening stone and grind away all those rough edges. And as much as it hurts to go back into the fire, sometimes that's the best thing for us. So those are the two challenges that I leave you with is, are you in a place where you need to get back into the fire, or are you in a place where you need to get out of the fire and be quenched and begin the process of finalizing and tempering and then grinding down and polishing the blade? I appreciate each and every one of you who listens to this podcast. Christmas is this week, and I may do a Christmas episode. I don't know yet. I haven't really had anything that's been laid on my heart, so I'm going to say no as of right now. However, the new year is right around the corner, and I cannot wait. I cannot wait for the new year. We're going to start a 4-week series about going to battle, and I'm so excited about it. It might end up being a 2-week series depending on how long each of those episodes go and how much I get through each of those, but there's going to be 4 main points that we talk about. I can't wait for that one. So for all of you, I hope you have a wonderful week, a Merry Christmas, and a Happy New Year. Thank you again so much. I hope that all of you will have an incredible rest of 2025. I cannot wait to see you in 2026. Remember to give grace, show love, and as always, stay stellar. Peace.